Okay, let's be real. Animal Crossing was the exact game people needed during this pandemic. You're stuck at home all day, so let's chill with some peaceful, cute animal villagers on a deserted island.
Go to the Winchester, have a nice cold pint, and wait for all this to blow over.
Meanwhile,
everybody cough in my face! Do it!
Man, those were good times. Anyway, so here we are almost a year later, and many of those islands are back where they started. Deserted. At least mine is. Those ungrateful fucks are lucky to see me once a month.
How come you don't want me, man?
Now don't get me wrong, Nintendo has added quite a bit of content since New Horizons release. We got the addition of an art collection, the diving suit, the dream suite, multiple events happening town square like the Halloween event, the Christmas event, and this guy, so please don't come back this Easter. But was this the type of content we expected? I'll speak for myself when I say not exactly, so don't get too fiery in the comment section on me. I think a lot of the expectations that I had for New Horizons originated with my experience with Animal Crossing New Leaf for the 3DS. The villagers were constantly engaging and had tons of interesting dialogue. You could go into the city, you had access to the roost where you can make coffee. Retail is a store where you can recycle items for profit. You had a full-time gardening store run by Leaf. Club LOL, which was a whole-ass club with DJ KK performing every Saturday. Bruh, this place was lit. I used to just walk in here for the aesthetic alone. And while many things in this Main Street area are available in some form or fashion in New Horizons, it made your town feel more alive and lived in. Like an actual community, where everyone played their part. Not to mention all the adorable songs Cappy used to sing to me on my way to the island where I'd farm for beetles to sell.
Oh, that's hot. That's hot.
Damn, this nigga spit.
Shut up! No one listen!
In comparison, it's been a year since I've been on this deserted island with my useless villagers, and nothing is gonna happen here unless I take the initiative. At least in New Leaf, you were the mayor, so any change you incited made sense. In New Horizon, I'm just bending over backwards to make this shithole livable. These dudes barely contribute money to any construction projects that go down here, and honestly, that actually affects my immersion in the game. These days when I load up the game to check on my island, literally nothing has changed. The villagers remind me how long it's been since they've seen me, and frankly, I don't even feel bad about that anymore. Tom Nook and Isabelle seem to be forever crunching numbers in the town center.
Gee, it sure is boring around here.
And the occasional animal visitors almost seem proud that they don't have to stay there permanently. Which brings me to another point. What exactly is the end game for this island? I mean, Nook advertises it as some type of island or deserted island getaway package, but you mean to tell me that these villagers really want to spend the rest of their lives here? Isabelle is basically the assistant to the mayor in the previous game. Is she stuck at this island forever for the rest of her days? I mean, I think the plot in itself hasn't really been thought out as well as others, where you're building a town or a city. This is just a random island in the middle of nowhere. What's the plan here, guys? So let's use the most recent event as an example. Festival took place in the middle of February as the latest update for Animal Crossing. And there you would collect a bunch of feathers for this peacock named Pave, who will give you furniture based on what you provide. And once you collect a certain amount of feathers, you can also trade in with villagers who will give you their feathers to help you get all the items from Pave. The thing is, this reminds me of a lot of other types of events that take place in New Horizon. We collect items that are either blowing in the wind or from other villagers, and then give it to the event NPC who's going to give us more furniture or do-it-yourself cards to create items that are themed around the event. It feels like there's nothing more to it than that. And in comparison in New Leaf, the same exact event, yeah, you went around and you collected feathers in the wind to give to Pave, But there were games you could play with the NPCs like rock, paper, scissors, charades, made you look. It made it feel a lot more lively, and it gave the event a little bit more variety, even if it's just a few mini games that you're playing with a few other villagers. Don't get me wrong, I'm not saying New Horizons has nothing to bring to the table. I mean, look how excited I was for the release.
Oh, that's hot.
It's possibly given me over 100 hours worth of enjoyment, and I'm sure there are thousands of players out there that have put in more. I think this all comes down to Nintendo needing to do a better job in tailoring our expectations with post-release content. We weren't obligated to receive any additional content after release, and I think that's a viable business model, and totally within Nintendo's right. I mean, we're still getting new updates for free in New Horizon, so let me get that out of the way. But in all honesty, I was expecting a big reveal of New Horizons Season 2 or something like that at the most recent Nintendo Direct. Instead, we had a really short announcement about a Mario 35th anniversary collab. I mean, check it out, we got warp pipes now, boys. We can fast travel around this island if we want. And while I love Mario items and clothing in my Animal Crossing like in previous titles, I expected a lot more, like the announcement of a year 2 with extravagant updates and at least things to catch them up to New Leaf. And granted, I know this pandemic has affected development times across the board, but I was expecting a little sliver of something to say, hey, we have another year of Animal Crossing events and things planned. And instead of focusing on events in the calendar, I think Nintendo should double down on new features for Animal Crossing, something to differentiate it a little bit more from the rest of the series. Is it wrong for us to expect more content out of this game, or is it okay for Nintendo to just put it down? And while there's no right answer to this question, I think that Nintendo should be a little bit more transparent. What type of content should we expect moving forward? Many other game companies publish roadmaps for their community, and I think all of these expectations we have, or had, for Animal Crossing come from us being in the dark. There's one game in Nintendo's roster that never disappoints when it comes to updates. That's right, Splatoon. I think Splatoon 2 is the gold standard for post-release content, at least in Nintendo's wheelhouse. New weapons, new maps, the constant Splatfest that always managed to generate hype in the community, the witty dialogue among Off the Hook that seemed to hint at something bigger happening behind the scenes. I mean, they came out with an entire expansion, for goodness sake, that turned the game on its head and affected the lore of the entire Splatoon world. Not to mention the possible repercussions of the final Splatfest of Order vs. Chaos that seemed to have played a role in the development of Splatoon 3. And after all this occurred, Nintendo even mentioned that they were taking a step back from big updates to the game. And it's that type of honesty that I think would better tailor expectations for these types of games and their post-release content. Then there's other Nintendo titles that seem like a shoo-in for post-release content, like Super Mario Party. I don't even think there was a subreddit or a comment section out there related to this game that didn't ponder the idea of new downloadable boards and mini-games, but Nintendo just released the game and moved on. Nintendo.
What's wrong with you?
This game sold 14 million copies. 14 million copies.
Wow. Love you guys.
Come on, we wanted more maps. And I think by keeping their community in the dark, we're only left to ponder how long Nintendo plans to support their games. Seeing as Animal Crossing will soon be the highest selling Switch game of all time, it's only 2 million copies behind Mario Kart 8 at the release of this video. You would think that there'd be bigger plans for it in the long term. I don't think anyone would be opposed to the full expansion a la Splatoon 2 at this rate. And I could be totally wrong about all this. Nintendo could be ready to launch something at the next Direct that's just a total Animal Crossing rehaul. But just these are my state of the affairs on the game right now. And of course my opinions aren't meant to take fun away from anyone enjoying this game whatsoever. I understand it's a big title in the series, and if you're out there enjoying it, then by all means go ahead and enjoy it. This is not meant to take away from that. Either way, I'll be keeping my expectations in check, and I'm just simply glad that Animal Crossing got this much attention in the first place, and I hope we see big strides in the series going forward. Let me know what you think in the comments, and go ahead and slap a like on the video while you're at it, because this wouldn't be an official YouTube video if I didn't say it. As always, my children, be safe. The Prophet